money, we're discussing about career, we're discussing about children. How many do we want? Do you know how to cook? Can you learn how to cook? People learn on the job, right? There are women that don't know how to cook. There are men that don't know how to cook. We can learn on the job, right? If you know how to fry the meanest egg with the best tomato and omelette, then teach her. If she knows how to do the best vegetable stew in the world, then teach him, right? We're all learning on the job. I get all of that. We do that as we go along, right?
Mm-hmm.
Assigning roles, whether it's in marriage, I'm speaking for me and mine. I'm not speaking for anybody,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'm speaking for me and mine. We're all learning these skills. We're all lending a hand. And this is what it is. When I have my career moves, I'm coming home to my husband to say, I want to go for X, Y, and Z role. Can I present to you? Even before I say, can I present to you, whether he knows anything about it or not, he can ask me, talk me through what you're doing. Give it to me in layman terms. Let me see if I can understand it. The same way supporting him. Oh, I have an interview tomorrow. I need to talk to something. There's a lot of pressure at work tomorrow. You pick up dinner for the kids, or can you pick up dinner for us? These are things we do together, because the day he is ready to do his, best believe that I will be ready doing it. And so it is up to me and him to be open-minded enough to support me, and the same applies for those people around me.
Yeah.
My sister-in-law can call me one day or call my husband one day and say, hey, listen, you guys, I have a job here. Can we drop the kids there? Can we do this? It's a life skill that we all need to have. And trust me, we live these lives, right? I can call my brother and say, listen, I need to go for this, that, and the other. Hobby is leaving early. He has an appointment in X, Y, and Z. Can you please pick up the kids? Or can your wife pick up the kids? Wife will pick them up. We'll drop them off at the cousins. This is what we do. If you don't have those life skills, you can't do those. You can't support anybody. You're almost useless to yourself, let alone anybody else. Right? So this is just, like I said, this is my opinion. Whether it's pasta and how to cook as a boy, then rustle that up for your boys and ask them to bring some chicken wings from I don't know, from KFC, or bring some chicken wings from Mama Put, or bring the amala along as you're coming. But we will take care of ourselves and we'll clean this house. Nobody is anybody's maid.
Hmm.
But this is just my opinion. Um and then the last one, what could be discussed during courtship leading to marriage? Simeon, a lot can be discussed. Everything. You see, people go on about body count, body count, body count. Body count is stupidness as far as I'm concerned, for the boy and the girls, because you're all coming about. If she tells you two, how do you know it's two for real? If
Yeah.
he tells you it's none, how do you know it's none for real, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying don't touch on those topics, but that's not the crux of the matter. How do you handle conflict? When you are angry, how do you handle it? What is money to you? You know, what does money mean to you? How do you manage money? Majority of divorce, I want to say the highest amount of divorce happens because of financial issues, unresolved financial issues. How do you manage
But
money?
but but Oluchi,
What.
let me ask a question. Why is it that when it comes to divorce, it's always finance at the core of the issue?
Because we teach people how to be husbands. We tell them you're the leader, you're the one in charge. We teach the girls how to be wives. Go there, not even how to be wives. Your job is to birth 10 babies and clean the house. And your husband's job, the man's job, is to provide money. What we don't say is sit down and let's talk about what money looks like for us. What we don't do is say, if I make X and you make Y, how are we going to divvy up the bills? What can we afford to begin with? Are we living in a one bedroom for the first year of our marriage? Or are we going to, live in a 5 bedroom? How are we going to make this happen? Do we join our incomes together, or do we separate our incomes? You hear people online here say, oh, when I'm the leader of the house, that's the man speaking, and my wife has to submit her salary. But the thing is, we never had that discussion. So why am I submitting my salary to you?
So this,
Do you see what I mean?
yeah. So this is one of the question we are. That's why we brought this last part of the
Mm.
question right there, because most of the time, this conversation were not done before getting into marriage, and
Yeah,
during
that's what I'm
marriage,
saying.
it caused argument and misunderstanding because everyone was trying to prevent or avoid discussing it, maybe in a certain way. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we need to have these discussions. That's why I say body count is the least of your problem. If you have an issue with body count, then do one already. Move on. Go and find that person that you're looking for. In the meantime, there are so many other things we can discuss. What is your love language? People trivialize love language, but love language is huge. Love language is huge. And I know it's a term that's been coined recently and we look at the steps. But Simeon, if my love language is, personal touch, and you as my husband don't like to be touched, you don't like to touch people, and there are people like that. Don't come near me, don't look at me, leave me alone kind of people, and you don't understand that, we're always going to fight about that. Right? Unless we learn to understand each other. Sorry, I know I'm going above time. It's the same with gift giving. If I'm somebody who likes to give gifts, it doesn't mean I don't like to receive. And you don't have to buy the most expensive thing in the world, right? You can also make arrangements for a little massage here or
Mm.
have the children today while I go for coffee. There are things that need to be discussed as far as I'm concerned, other than body count. Even this idea of submission, even this idea of leadership, people need to start discussing it. We're now in 2026. There's so much more that needs to be discussed, right?
Yeah.
Who takes the lead in the house? Do you believe in leadership? Do you believe in partnership? What are your thoughts around a woman going to work? What are your thoughts around a woman going for the highest post in work? What are your thoughts about babysitting your children? What are the thoughts about taking care of your children? What are the thoughts about you going to the doctors and the PTA meeting if we
Yeah.
do decide to have children?
That's true.
What are your thoughts about cooking dinner 3 times a week? There are things that we need to discuss. Well, there are women that don't like to clean the house. Let's know that we are humans too. If you don't like to clean the house and he does not like to clean the house, can we afford a little
But but
cleaner for the
but
week? Can
but
we?
Olubi, that part of not cleaning the home, can it be
Mm.
discussed during courtship? Because if if it was not discussed and now in the home it's not happening, don't you think that will cause chaos? Because and if a man or a woman tell each both themselves that I don't know how to clean, would that person want to get married to that person in the first place?
Yeah, but Simeon, if I tell you, if me and you were in a courtship right now, and if I tell you, as much as cleaning is a life skill, I hate, absolutely despise cleaning, right? And you see me as a woman who's meant to clean, and you can't get your head around the idea of this woman wallowing in a whole load of mess. What you should do is ask me that, how do I clean? Do you live, are you a pig? Do you live in a pig style? What you should ask me. And I would say to you, I don't like cleaning. However, on a Sunday, I get someone in to clean the house. That's an example, right? Now, you as a man can think, nah, that's just not what we're going to do. The moment you understand that, if you're open for discussion, we discuss it. If you're not open for discussion, you tell me, no, that is a deal breaker for me. I want my wife hands on her hands and knees scrubbing the floor,
Mm,
right?
mm,
And if you know you can't deal with, like, we need to start having these conversations up front so that way, if the man's going to change, he'll change. If the woman's going to change, she'll change. If they're going to pick up a skill, they will. And if they're going to employ someone to do it, I only earn £10 an hour. You only earn £10 an hour. Our bills at the end of the day come to £200. All we earn is £250. We can't afford a cleaner. Let's start learning how to clean. Right? Let's start learning how to do this. But if we can afford it, maybe it's true.
at what
Maybe,
age? Let's tell them that way.
yeah, and people learn on the job. And if you can't learn it, then maybe I know a cleaner down the road. I can share it with my neighbor,
That's true.
right?
That's true.
Maybe we can get a housekeeper. But the point is, open your mouth and start having these conversations. Once you've asked about the body count and you've moved on, there are important things to discuss. Are we going to have an Owambe party, or are we going to go to a little court down the road? One that would only cost us maybe £500, not the one that will cost us 20 grand. Or maybe we want to close the road. Where's your savings? Where's the money? Who's paying for what?
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, there's a list. You can bring a list, right? And just to leave this here, I am over 20 years in marriage, to God be the glory, and we're still discussing these things. We're still discussing it. So my point is, it never ends, right? Because some people will say, oh, you've been there a long time. Longevity is important. Longevity is important, but if you don't do the work, you will end up being miserable. They will end up being miserable. And that's when one person that decides, you know what, this balance is tilted to one side and it's time for me to move on.
Mm,
right?
mm.
So the discussion has to be continuous. And I'm sorry I've taken a lot of time,
No problem. No
but
problem.
this particular topic I'm quite passionate about. So thank you for indulging me.
All right. Thank you so much, Lady. Thank you so much. Okay. Let me go to Babasco. Bridget, welcome in. Abby, Idarage, Fina, Grace, thank you so much. Little Palm, thank you. All right. Let me go to Babasco. Good morning to you. Let's hear from you.
Good morning, Simeon.
Good
Good
morning.
morning to everybody on the panel. Good morning to everybody in the chat. Hope you are all having a beautiful Monday.
Yeah, we have.
Um, as you probably would have, maybe you didn't see, I already clapped to everything that Olubi said. It makes sense. If we're not rational with the decisions that we are trying to make on a that's going to be a permanent basis in our lives, how are we expecting it to work? It's almost like you're walking through a place full of landmines and you are pretending that you can do hopscotch and skip over all the landmines. Eventually, when you land on one as a couple, it's going to explode. So many things that Olubi touched on, I feel like I agree with. There's temperament in a relationship, who's the hot one, who's not the hot one. There's life skills which are supposed to be basic on both sides, but as she said, there's some guys that can't cook, there's some ladies that can cook, clean. Basically it's really the same across the board. And I think the question we need to ask ourselves is why these things haven't been put in place in the first place. Are we as well, now I'm a parent, but eventually, before I was a kid. So I would say, were my parents trying to set me up in such a way that I would be the provider and not have cooking skills if I don't have them already? If I don't have cleaning skills and being able to take care of myself, why would I be essentially expecting my wife to do those things for me unless it has been put in me before marriage? So in that case, I was getting married so I will have somebody to do those things for me. These skills should be interchangeable. The father should be able to play the role of the mother, and the mother should be able to play the role of the father. In this kind of economy and thing that we live in, there are some ladies that have earning potential that is 3-4 times the potential of the husband, and it's not because of choice. It could just be because of how things are. If that's the case, why can the roles not be switched? um so I think that answers the first question. And I think the second question, trust is established when you get to know somebody and you get to know more about them. Everybody has red flags. We are all human beings and we all make mistakes. Some of them end up being character traits. Some of them are things that are intentionally done, maybe out of spite, or generally it could just be because that's how the person's behavior is. But is that the kind of thing that you're ready to put up with? These are all the things that you get to know in the prelim stage. Um, Body count for me as a guy, and I know this might come up as a little bit controversial, it doesn't essentially mean a lot to me as long as the body count is not something that will be an ongoing issue through the relationship. If that makes sense to the learned people in the chat. I ain't worried about anybody that came before me because that's supposed to be before. But if I continue to see the person while we're together, then that would raise questions, would it not? So I believe a good and honest discussion should be had, and as much information should be gathered before proceeding into something that will be permanent, before kids are involved, you know, before you decide to make the person a permanent fixture in your life. If there's kids involved already, then you need to move even more delicately